out of the Steam Deck 2. So we've had the Steam Deck for, I don't know how long it's been.
Has it been a year? It's been close to a year, right?
Close, if not a year.
No, it's slightly more. Because remember Gaben did the video where he delivered the first couple Steam Decks? But then he like ran away, so no one actually knew it was Gaben who delivered it.
That's my favorite thing. Just Gaben going around like, I'm going to hand deliver a Steam Deck. I'm going to ring the doorbell and I'm just going to leave.
And he just went back to New Zealand and he's never been seen again.
Why did he hand deliver it then? The only reason we knew about it is because someone had a ring doorbell. Like...
I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that the Steam Deck has been a very large success. But also I think for Valve it's important, right? Because if you look at what the Steam Deck is, that is not a way for Valve to make money on hardware. It is a way for them to ensure that they own your gaming life as thoroughly as possible by selling you games on Valve. What? Are you trying to tell me that
I'm going to own your gaming life, just like we want to own your YouTube life, so like and subscribe. But you're right, though. It's a way for them to get into, not everyone's going to be sitting in front of a PC. Mm-hmm. So this is a way to ensure that you're still in the Steam library.
Yep. And it's filled a real niche, right? I think the vast majority of people who own a Steam Deck enjoy it, appreciate it, but the Steam Deck library is far more comprehensive than the Vita ever was. And as much as I love my Switch Lite, it is also a significantly different selection of games that are playable on the Steam Deck.
Also, you can play most Nintendo games on Steam Deck.
What? How would you do that? What?
Nothing illegal. One of the things that has made the Steam Deck so successful is just how user-friendly it is. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that from like, oh, it's easy to use. I mean like, whatever you want to put on there, go for it. You want to put Windows on there? Go for it. Like, you want to put
Mac OS on there?
Someone did it.
Someone did it?
Someone on Reddit. They got Mac OS Catalina on that thing.
Shout out.
Redditors, are you okay?
So there's a lot that is impressive about the Steam Deck 1. One of my favorite parts is the price. And I will say, if we're talking about a wish list for Steam Deck 2, don't touch the price too much, please. Be kind to us. Don't hit us with like a $700 Steam Deck, because
You say that, but I paid $700 for mine. It's not worth it to get the max configuration. The matte screen, the glass, not the screen, is nice, but you can upgrade the memory for so much cheaper. It's not worth it to go that max spec one.
Totally. When you look at the Steam Deck at $400, it is an incredibly powerful
$80 you can
machine.
get a really good SSD in there. It's
you absolutely
like it's really good for that price, and it's a really affordable entryway to get good gaming on it. Personally, I actually like the size of the Steam Deck.
Okay, all right.
Which
Can we
know
go
is
through our wish list now? Can we go through our wish list for Steam Deck 2?
let me get your
So we're gonna make Austin's Steam Deck 2 wish list. Number 1, make that shit smaller. Not like a little bit smaller, like a lot smaller. Now again, I am a Switch Lite gamer. The Steam Deck is too big, and it is largely the reason why I have never really used the Steam Deck personally. I've played with it, I've tried it, but it's not it for me. It's so big on my hands, it makes my hands feel small.
You never say I feel small when you're hugging me. Big things have feelings too. All right, so again, this is where like everyone's experience differs. I have not found a use for the touchpads, and that's again because I'm not really doing computer games. Like any game I do put on there, I play fully in controller mode. So like I feel like if you remove those touchpads, bring that in a little bit, like where the real estate those take off, is enough for me. I like the screen size. Personally, I don't mind that it's 800 resolution because again, where it is right now, you don't notice anything different, and it really helps with battery life. I'd put like control on there, and it was running at 720/60 lock.
Totally fine.
Which
fine brings me to number 2 on Austin's list of things.
Okay.
Better screen. Okay, now I get it.
Better screen.
No, hold on. Wait. Time out. Let me finish. I fully acknowledge that the Steam Deck has a good resolution, but the actual panel quality is mid. Right? I'm not asking for a 120 hertz OLED. The Switch OLED has a terrific display. Now, mind you, it's about $50 more expensive than the standard Switch, but in my opinion, that's $50 that I would happily pay. So if you're gonna say the Steam Deck is gonna go by like $50 or maybe even $100 if they do a little bit more of a full comprehensive redesign, I would 100% expect a higher quality screen. Not necessarily high resolution, not necessarily even like 90 or 120 hertz, although obviously I would be happy with that, but a higher quality panel would I think be a very welcome quality of life upgrade. Now, Matt, you may have noticed on my list, you know what I'm not asking for?
What are you asking for?
I'm not asking for.
What are you not asking for?
Performance.
The performance, I think, is on par now. I do think the performance is going to lack in a couple years. And
the Switch disagrees. The Switch is immortal at this point.
Ooh, don't you talk to me about the
Did
Switch.
I just pull a switcheroo on you, man?
Do I have to gotcha journalism you again?
Or did I just gotcha you?
What? How did you got me?
Wait, please explain. What's the problem with the Switch, man? I think it's perfectly fine.
Because you can actually render things in 3D on the Steam Deck instead of having 2D sprites running at 12 FPS on a Pokemon game.
The Switch has an enormous amount of longevity considering that it's using a 2015 mobile processor. And while yes, it's starting to show its age now, we are 8 years into that chip's life cycle? Now, if you look at what the Steam Deck has, it is a very competent chip. It's a quad-core Zen 2-base CPU, RDNA 2 graphics, very similar to a cut-down version of what you would find on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and the Series S. What I would like to see is not necessarily more performance, although that's always nice, but I would actually prefer for them to shrink that down and give us better battery life and better efficiency. Because the other problem I have, and this applies to Steam Deck, Neo, any of these handheld PC style devices, is that while they are usable, they are very impressive, they are really cool, they feel very Gen 1 to me. I play, again, the Switch Lite, which is the least powerful of the Switches. It doesn't have any kind of dock, so it's got a tiny little fan. And that to me is great, and I can pretty much forget that that exists. You cannot sit in a quiet room when play any of these handheld PCs without hearing that fan.
Counter argument to all of this is, yeah, the fan noise picks up a little bit on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, it does.
Things will get better. Thermals will improve in Gen 2. The only thing I need them to do is increase the performance and not wait 8 years like the Switch has done.
Sure, but Steam Deck 3 can do that. I think Steam Deck 2, if they just shrink the processor a little bit,
No. AMD just released a 16-core mobile processor. Let's slap that bad boy in there.
Are you gonna water cool your Steam Deck, Matt?
Linus has already done that. So I think we're in a pretty good spot there, because if we're sticking with a lower resolution panel, and you guys can complain about the lower resolution all day long, you can't see it. I'm calling you out, Nick, all right? You cannot see that resolution. Look at me with your special eyes and tell me.
Well, I mean, if I do this, I can't see it.
Yeah, exactly. Having the slightly lower resolution screen.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Does that's what I see a lot of people complaining about though with the Steam Deck. Is like, the IO Neo has a 1080 60 screen. Yeah, and the battery life on the IO Neo sucks.
Yeah, look, I'm okay with the resolution. If I was gonna make a wish list of things for the screen, again, we'll just put this to like a subsection B here. Aaron's gonna kill me. I would say the most important things would be a higher quality screen, at the very least a better panel, if not an OLED.
I'll give you the better panel.
Yeah.
I think at this at the 860 hertz right now is the sweet spot to not have
totally
an aircraft carrier in your hand. When we can get a more efficient cooling, then we add the other
so
things.
here's the thing though, it's not just efficient cooling, it's going to be a more efficient processor, because again, what's inside the Steam Deck is essentially a laptop chip, right? Which laptops typically have a whole lot of surface area. But what the Steam Deck does not have is, even though it's huge and massive, it does not have the cooling capability, first of all, to really properly cool a laptop chip. But if they can give us the same rough level of performance, but at a lower level of power, I would happily take that to get better battery life, better thermals, and better noise. To me, that is a trade-off worth making, because while yes, it's nice to always have more spec, blah, 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 but to me, the Steam Deck is powerful enough. What I want are better actual usability and quality of life improvements of making this thing smaller and making this thing less loud, less hot, etc., etc. And please give me a little bit more battery life.
As someone who's loud and hot, it's offensive to me that you are trying to rein that in. Counter argument, you keep the same size, you have more performance in there.
No!
And then you could have your Cyberpunk running at 60 FPS. Okay, so what is next up on your list? Your fairy tale wish that would be more likely to have a dragon come down from the sky than get all the stuff you want on this device.
Smaller size.
Yep.
Better screen.
Okay.
More efficient processor, which would then give you better battery life. That's my three things. If I'm gonna add a fourth, not a dramatic price increase. Look, I get it. The $400 Steam Deck, they're probably losing money before the inflationary pressures of the economy. I get that the new Steam Deck, the Steam Deck 2, will likely be more expensive. But I would just ask, be reasonable, be kind to us, Valve. $400 is an incredible price point. I get that you probably will not be able to hit that again, but $450, that's reasonable. $500, if maybe you give us a little bit more base storage, I could say $500, but don't go above $500, right? Now, I know that all of the competition to the Steam Deck, such as the Neos and whatnot of the world, are all significantly more. Most of those devices are $600, $700 easily. They can easily reach up to
And
that much.
I don't blame them for that.
No, this is expensive hardware. I totally
It's
understand.
expensive hardware, and they don't have the added bonus of having the Steam shop. If I'm gonna say, where am I gonna invest my hard-earned money? Right now, Steam is the one to do it. I agree with most of what you're saying, just not to the extremes that you're saying.
Well, then what do you want in the Steam Deck? You're Gaben for a day. You get to go tell the minions to develop you the perfect product. What's Steam Deck 2?
A performance increase.
Okay, more performance.
Yeah, to be able to keep up with titles, because that's my biggest complaint with it right now, is like when it was released, it was already, I don't want to say outdated, because it wasn't. But it was on the cusp of being outdated.
Barely able to play
Yes.
modern titles. Sure.
So in like right now we're getting there and we're playing games, but like next year I think there's like games that come out next year will start to.
My only
Start to
caveat to
struggle with
that
that.
would be it is based on the same tech as the current generation consoles, which we know are going to be around for 5,
But they're
6 more
optimized
years.
differently. So
No,
like
but
I just don't think you can use that same argument. Like the way that the ports are for PC
Yeah.
is very different than the way they're ported over to.
Sort of. I just think if a game can run on a Series S, you can get it to work on a Steam
But
Deck.
that means
even
that
as
developers
is.
have to develop the game for the Steam Deck,
trying to
which
say
I
something.
just don't think is going to happen. Where I think we're going to get into a scenario where developers would start to develop for Steam Deck is having a much, much, much higher base of people who have a Steam Deck. If we started to hit like Vita sales or something
Sure,
like that,
sure.
then maybe you start to have a lot more developers say, I'm going to develop this
Mm-hmm.
for Steam Deck.
Yeah, because that would be my argument for you as far as you want more performance. Guess what? This thing actually has relatively decent performance, but most games are still using the Proton layer, which obviously is terrific and does a very good job, but it's not the same thing as developing for the actual native hardware. It's completely good enough, but I bet if there were more games that were optimized specifically for the Steam Deck, you would get a reasonable jump in performance.
So that brings us back to Half-Life 3, Portal 3.
Oh,
What
yeah,
better?
exclusive to Steam Deck.
Yeah. So I know that
They won't do that.
I know that a lot of people don't like exclusives. If you say, "Oh, these are exclusive to Steam Deck," that would sell units. That would sell hardware.
Well, that's what they did with VR.
Yeah. Right now, there's so many people who are like, "No, I want to play on my PC,"
Mm-hmm.
and the only value proposition is that you're able to use your existing library right now
Sure,
on the
sure.
go.
Yeah.
So like they have to either sell this thing for like $100 and just
Yeah.
make a massive loss on it, or they have to give something that's exclusive to the Steam Deck. It's again, the portability is not enough to purely sell these. At the base, what are you actually getting with the Steam Deck that you don't get on your PC? Nothing. You're playing the same game worse. That's the trade-off for being portable.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad trade-off. But how many people are gonna say, well, I can also just get a laptop, or like I can have my laptop like this? Not many people can afford to have multiple devices. If I'm gonna say, oh, I can either buy a pretty good gaming laptop or a laptop and a Steam Deck,
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna go with the gaming laptop.
Sure.
Steam has a history of discontinuing products that people love because not enough people.
No, but I disagree with that part. No one bought any of the other Steam stuff until the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is, I think,
Well, yeah,
the
but
first piece of hardware.
the people who did buy it loved it.
Yeah, but they had to sell it for super cheap. I guess-
Exactly, but that's my point. If not enough people buy this Steam Deck now,
Right.
there is not going to be a Steam Deck.
But here's my question. Do you think that that's the actual case? Because in my opinion, the Steam Deck has been successful enough that Valve can clearly invest in Steam Deck 2 and maybe even start thinking about Steam Deck 3 because they've got a hit on their hands. And won't it just naturally sort of grow? Obviously, they can pull whatever price levers and other stuff they need to promote this thing. But like in my opinion,
I think
the
it's
Steam
too
Deck,
early to say that.
Okay,
Because
okay.
I think there's a very real scenario where we start seeing some games that are designed to be put on, 4080s, where, suddenly the Steam Deck doesn't work that well, and we see a massive drop-off of players on the Steam Deck. And then Valve will look at that and say, well, no one's playing on the platform anymore.
To me, you're taking like 3 leaps there that I don't necessarily think need to happen. As long as games have to run on the PS5, Series X, and specifically the Series S, they will at least play somewhat okay on the Steam Deck with the existing hardware. I'm not saying that they should not update the performance of the Steam Deck for 5 more years. I think that's too long, but I think the Steam Deck hardware itself is completely adequate for the next 2 to 3 years, at which point there's hopefully some kind of mid-cycle refresh where they help to improve the efficiency and whatnot. And then they put RDNA 5 in there and a Zen 7 CPU.
And I agree with you on all of that. I just don't think we're going to see that
You think it's going to
refresh.
fail before we hit that point?
I'm worried it fails. I don't think it will, but I do see a scenario where the diminishing returns on what you can actually play on here catches up to it way faster than the mid-cycle.
There's only one way to find out. You know how to find out, Matt?
Like, subscribe, follow, and check
No.
us out as we complain about this more.
No, you just tweet it, Gaben. Just tell him, hey, make me a Steam Deck 2, please.
I actually do think he sits there and reads all of them.
There are definitely a lot of people who, very big, important people who like literally have their assistants
Yes, I know.
print stuff out and hand them.
I know. You do that. Every day I have to print out every tweet that you guys tweet
No,
to
every
Austin.
comment on every channel has to be printed out.
I print it out. And I have to I have to bind it.
What Liquor 69 says.